Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the pages of one of the most incredible, epic narratives from ancient history, tucked right inside the Mahabharata. We are looking at a story about ultimate survival, absolute cosmic resets, and a very, very surprising divine intervention. If you love deep dives into how ancient cultures understood cataclysms and the creation of the world, you are absolutely going to love the structure of this legend. It's a primeval history known as the legend of the fish. What happens when the dissolution of the entire mobile and immobile world is nigh? I mean, it's a heavy question, right? But this isn't just some hypothetical. The text drops us right into an apocalyptic scenario where the total purging of the world is rapidly approaching. It is literally the ultimate high-stakes situation. But the way our protagonist survives this terrifying doom involves a journey that is, well, it's as bizarre as it is awe-inspiring. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The Ascetic and the Fish. Our story begins with our protagonist, Vaivaswata Manu, a powerful Rishi and son of Vaivaswata, who completely excelled his ancestors in power and discipline. Now, to give you an idea of exactly how focused Manu is, consider this staggering number, 10,000. That is the number of years Manu spent practicing rigid, severe penance in the Vaisala Jujube forest. And he didn't just sit there comfortably either. The text specifically details his austerities. He stood on one leg, with an uplifted hand, head downwards, with steadfast eyes, wearing wet clothes, and with matted hair. This mind-boggling scale of dedication establishes Manu as someone operating on an entirely different level of spiritual endurance. But then, out of nowhere, an interruption. While practicing these intense austerities near the banks of the river Chirini, a tiny fish approaches him, and the fish speaks. It says, "I am a helpless little fish. I am afraid of the large ones. Save me from being drowned in the sea of terrors." The fish points out the harsh rule of nature, that the strong fish prey upon the weak. It begs Manu for protection, promising to requite him for his good deeds. It's a really brilliant, inciting incident. You have this towering ascetic, locked in 10,000 years of meditation, suddenly asked to care for a creature whose body, the text notes, glistened like the rays of the moon. Part 2. A vessel too small. Overpowered with pity, Manu pulls the fish from the water to protect it. Let's move to and see how this builds, because we're going to track this incredible physical growth across 4 distinct habitats. Manu initially places the tiny fish into a simple earth and water vessel, tending to it carefully, almost like it's his own child. But after a long while, the fish grows so large there is literally no room left. It asks for a better habitation. So Manu moves it to a massive tank, described in the text as 2 yojanas long and 1 yojana wide. A yojana is an ancient measurement representing a massive astronomical scale, miles and miles across. But the fish just keeps growing. For many years it grows until even that massive tank isn't enough room to play about. Next, at the fish's request, Manu carries it to the river Ganga. It grows again. Finally, unable to move even in the mighty Ganga because of its immense bulk, it asks to be taken to the sea. Now, here's a subtle, kind of surreal detail from the text. When Manu transports this utterly colossal fish from the Ganga to the sea, the text notes that, despite its great bulk, Manu transported it effortlessly. Not only was it easy, but its touch and smell were deeply pleasant to him. This isn't just a story about a giant fish anymore. This detail subtly hints to the audience that there's a hidden, divine nature at play here, long before the big truth is actually revealed. Part 3. Warning of the Great Flood. Once the fish is safely consigned to the ocean, we hit a massive turning point. The giant fish, smiling at Manu, suddenly transitions from a helpless dependent into a terrifying prophet. The fish delivers this chilling prophecy with absolute certainty. The dissolution of all this mobile and immobile world is nigh at hand. The time for the purging of this world is now ripe. It tells Manu that a terrible doom is approaching for all divisions of creation, those that can move and those that cannot. A cataclysmic flood is rapidly approaching to wipe out all of creation. So the crucial point is how exactly Manu is supposed to survive this purging. The fish gives him very explicit instructions, basically a survival checklist for the apocalypse. Manu must build a strong, massive ark. He needs to furnish it with a long rope. He must ascend this ark with the 7 Rishis. And perhaps most importantly for the future of the world, he has to carefully and separately preserve all the different seeds enumerated by the Brahmanas in days of yore. And there's one final instruction. Manu must wait in the ark for the fish to return. The fish states clearly that it will appear like a horned animal, and that is exactly how Manu will recognize it. It leaves Manu with a really stark warning. Without my assistance, you cannot save yourself from that fearful flood. Manu doesn't doubt a word. He procures the seeds, sets sail, and he waits.
Part 4. Surviving the Raging Ocean. The waters come, and the pacing of the ancient text shifts dramatically here to reflect the intense action. The world floods. Water covers the heaven and the firmament. None but Manu, the 7 Rishis, and the fish can be seen anywhere.
The imagery used to describe the survival journey is incredibly vivid. The text describes a roaring, billow-beaten sea, noting that neither land nor the 4 points of the compass could be distinguished. Water was simply everywhere. And tossed by this tempest on the great ocean, the ancient text explicitly says the massive vessel reeled about like a drunken harlot. It paints a picture of absolute, terrifying chaos, where this boat is utterly at the mercy of the raging elements.
And right in the middle of this chaos, we get this incredible narrative contrast. Just as promised, knowing Manu's mind, the fish appears in the ocean, emerging like a rock, with a horn on its head. Manu lowers the ropey noose over the horn. So think about this. The tiny, glistening creature that Manu once saved out of pity in a small water vessel is now using its immense, unfathomable force to diligently drag Manu's massive boat through the salt waters for many long years.
Part 5. The Revelation of Brahma. After many years of this perilous, tempest-tossed journey, the pacing finally calms down. The mighty fish successfully tows the vessel towards safety, directing them to the highest peak of the Himavat mountains.
And this brilliantly illustrates how ancient myths anchor themselves in physical known geography. The fish commands them to tie the boat to the mountain peak. The text explicitly notes that this high peak of the Himavat is still called by the name of Nabandana, which translates to the harbor. It gives a physical, lasting name to this legendary peak of salvation, making the myth feel tangible to the audience.
Once the boat is secured, the fish addresses the Rishis, and we get the ultimate twist delivered with dramatic flair. The fish says, "I am Brahma, the lord of all creatures. There is none greater than myself." No way, right? It was the supreme creator all along. Brahma explains that he assumed the shape of a fish to save them from this cataclysm. It was a divine test and a divine rescue. Part 6. The Rebirth of Creation. With safety secured, the fish vanishes instantly. But Manu's work isn't done, it's just beginning. He's now tasked with creating all beings again, gods, asuras, and men, all divisions of creation. The text notes that in this massive work of creation, illusion overtakes him, and he must therefore practice great asceticism once again to acquire the power to rebuild the world in proper and exact order.
The text doesn't just end the story there, it turns directly to us, the listener. It outlines the explicit ancient promise for those who engage with this primeval history. Hearing this legend, the text claims, destroys all sin. The man who listens to it every day attains happiness, achieves all objects of desire, and goes to heaven. It highlights exactly why these massive cosmic stories were so carefully preserved and passed down through generations. They weren't just histories, they were spiritual tools. Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to ponder. Manu was tasked with saving the exact seeds of his ancient world to ensure its continuation after the ultimate purge. It challenges us to think about preservation and duty. So, if the waters rose today and you had to pack a massive ark to rebuild creation, what seeds of our world would you save? Think about what is truly essential. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this incredible legend stays with you.